Hi, I'm Ron Hawkins, Art Director here at Reaper Miniatures.
I'm Ed Pugh, President here at Reaper Miniatures.
Thanks for joining us on Reaper Live, the show where we blend gaming, painting, and geek culture all together for your viewing pleasure. We're joined today by our producer, Michael Collins, Technical Director, Justin Elliott. Say hello, boys.
Hey.
And Ed, today we are joined...
Patrick Keith. Awesome.
You jumped, that you stepped on my line. We are joined today by special Bombshell Miniatures owner...
What? Okay.
Patrick Keith.
I'm so sad.
That's what you just
And
said.
I'm still here, so it's okay.
Well, Pat, thanks for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me out. It's very exciting to be out here. I haven't been out to the shop and seen all the changes that you guys have made since
It's been a while.
2012. We were talking about that, and I'm happy to be back.
And you made it through the torrential downpours of
It's
Texas
going on right now in Texas.
Yeah, actually, we're
Rain
getting
every day.
the tail end of the Sergio hurricane coming up through El Paso out there. So yeah, it's been kind of severe the last few days.
We're getting a whopping
underwater.
We're getting a whopping. So what we're going to do today, Pat, is we're going to talk to you. We're going to ask you some questions about painting and gaming and miniatures and all that kind of fun stuff.
I don't know anything about that.
I know you don't, but we're gonna muddle our way through it. So, how did you get into miniature painting, miniature gaming?
The hobby.
Just
the hobby. How did you get into this?
How did all this start?
Yeah. So, and while you wind up to tell us this story, let's start painting. Let's get our stuff ready.
Oh, do I get to paint while I'm
you
telling
can
that?
paint and talk
No,
at the
you
same
can talk.
time.
We're going to have to paint.
Just kind of go through the motions, whatever.
Yeah.
Actually, I got into
You wanted the Edo?
the hobby. I was a gamer and painter and stuff. Played Warhammer 40K. Back in the day, I want to say it was around 1989, 1990, in that period. And I became the manager actually at Lone Star Comics out in Mesquite.
Never heard of the place.
Never, I'm sure. Yeah. Actually, you were a customer of mine out there.
Yes. Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about this at ReaperCon.
We did
a bit. And so I was actually doing figure conversions and modeling and all of that kind of stuff for the gaming. And there was a convention, and I can't remember where it was. It was out by the airport.
Did it happen on a Thanksgiving weekend?
I think so.
Was it the Dallas Fantasy Fair?
No, which is coming back, actually.
Really?
They're going to have it at the Irving Convention Center over Thanksgiving.
I'm going.
You had Dallas Cons, but that was a June show.
No, this was out at
a couple of years, there was one that was running around Thanksgiving, on the holiday weekend.
Okay.
I think that was that the one you're
talking
about?
Well, it might have been. This was out at by the DFW airport. I think it was like the Hilton or something.
Right, on the... Yeah.
And it was some kind of like a tournament type of deal because they had like official Warhammer... gaming and stuff going on out there. Okay. I say official. It was like the North Texas group or whatever that's going to do all that. And so, can I just like reach and
just help yourself,
okay,
man. There's no how rude of you to reach over me like that.
Let's get your elbows and stuff going. Well, anyway, so I went to this tournament. I brought some of my stuff out there, and actually, our general manager at Lone Star Comics, which was Elaine Powell at the time.
Right.
And do you keep up with Elaine and Les?
And Les, I don't, but I see Chris more often, the boy.
Yeah.
He's up with Alliance and he's at Diamonds where he is.
Oh, okay. Because I didn't know what happened with any of them since I left a long time ago. But anyway, so when I was working there, she knew that I was, painting and all this type of stuff. And she said, well, I've got these guys that I want you to meet from Reaper Miniatures. So I drove home from there and picked up a bunch of stuff that I had sculpted, and I brought it back out. And she introduced me to Dave, who was there at the time. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, hey, why don't you come out to the shop, which is when you guys were at the first little building out in Louisville.
Smith Street.
Oh, yeah, Smith Street.
Right. Okay. And so I brought my crappy little sculpts out there and kind of showed them around. And we're like, oh, okay, well, here's kind of what you do and what we're looking for and, work on it, basically.
Yeah.
So I went away and worked on it. And then,
and did well.
Yeah, and then it just kind of sort of faded off, and it wasn't until I went to Gen Con several years after that and ran into you there that I kind of got the bug for sculpting again, and came back out, and you guys were already here at this location.
That would have been sometime after 04. Yeah, I guess we were here 03, 04.
Yeah, because I think it was 04, 05.
So it's all my fault.
Yeah, it is your fault. Yeah. And you were like, well, hey, have you been doing any more sculpting or anything?
Because I remember that rat guy.
Yeah, you're right.
I remember that rat guy.
Well, Vicky's army, when we were playing Warhammer, was like Skaven. I mean, she's all into Skaven and Tyranids. That's her big thing. And so and I kind of taught her to paint and all that type of stuff too. And so she got to the place to where she, her painting is like when you put our models together, you can tell who painted what. So then I knew it's like, okay, well she's where she wants to be on that. But when I ran into Ron at Gen Con, he kind of put the bug in my ear. It's like, well, hey, if you do any more sculpting or whatever, bring it out to the shop and we'll check it out and see what it looks like or whatever. So that made an impression on me. I went home and I dug out some green stuff that I had gotten from you guys from the first time and sculpted a couple of things and brought them out and got critique and stuff on it.
Did you keep it in the freezer?
No. Okay. And it was awful, and I still hate sculpting with green stuff. And so
that's right. We talked about this at ReaperCon. You kind of moved on from.
You were a real early adopter of the gray.
Yeah, exactly.
I was some of your best stuff.
Yeah, well, Sandy Garrity, who's terrific, for having the little sculptor meetings at Gen Con.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I don't know if it was the same year or a year after that. The Craft Mart guys came out there and gave out free samples of Procreate to everybody at the sculptor meeting.
Yeah.
And I got that and took it home and went, holy cow, I like this because it's formulated specifically for sculpting miniatures, and so it's not as elastic and gooey as like green stuff is. And so I started having a lot better results, from using that. And and I know there were some formulation issues with the first batches they put out, but after they got that worked out, it was terrific to use it, and so I've been a big fan of that. And then in the last few years I've been sculpting with Beast Putty, which is a polymer clay that's like Fimo, and it's made over in Germany by Studio Works, and it's nice. I like the property of it. It's that you can take that and stick it directly onto your armature and not have to like epoxy it on with
and get it to wrap and all of that. Yeah,
exactly. It's tacky enough that you can actually just start sculpting with it just right onto the armature. And so that's what I like about it. It's like I'll just work up my little wire and then coat a layer of like kind of block out what I'm doing with it and bake that and then build up additional layers and stuff over that. So it's kind of a faster process.
So for you, it's just really been just sort of a long journey of just step after step after step, just going in a direction.
Yeah, because
finding where you're.
I really like working with a lot of different things until I find sort of the thing that is comfortable for me to work with, and that's pretty much true with anything. It's like painters. It's like, well, they've got to try a lot of different brushes or a lot of different kinds of paint or whatever until they settle on something that's like, ooh, this gives me the results for the way that I like to work. And so, and that's not just with miniatures painting. That's kind of like in pretty much any hobby or industry.
By the way, today we are painting some of Patrick's Bombshell miniatures. We're not painting.
Oh yeah, that's a whole collection of babes out there
and other things. Mm-hmm. I'm painting one of your Edo. Which one is this? This is the.
Which one is that? Man, if you had to ask me, it's we changed the names on those a couple of times.
Oh, okay.
The new edition, it's.
How about just Squid Man with Axe?
There you go. Squid Man with Axe.
And what are you painting?
I'm painting Melee, the mechanic.
Oh, okay, the classic.
One of the signature
classic.
pieces.
Sure, it is.
Right.
Icon.
That would be the World War II.
That's right. That's Betty, and I've sculpted that figure at the Reaper Artist Con or whatever the year that we ran the Kickstarter for that. So that was one of the pieces I was working on when we were here at the.
So when you were working at Lone Star Comics, I was one of your customers, and I came in one time and I said, I saw you had with an old Ralph Partha. Well, it wasn't old then; it's old now. Brand Mac. Something or other. Was it
Brand McMorrin.
Was that what it was?
Yeah.
And I saw that piece in the case, the painted version you did. I said, man, that's awesome. I said,
I still got that piece.
I said, that's cool. It was an awesome piece. I said, how did you get your skin tone so good on that? And you gave me a tip. You said, I'll tell you a secret. It's Liquitex medium matte and sandalwood for flesh color. Because at the time, I believe the color choices in the old Ralph Partha paint lines and the polyester paint lines, they weren't very good.
No, they were They were just one coat coverage, like sunburned skin, sunburned flesh, and that's what
and
you
just
got.
colors. Yeah, you just put it on.
And the colors weren't good anyway. But the sandalwood color you gave me,
Yeah.
or you pointed me out to,
Right.
man, that was
well,
perfect
and you know
Caucasian skin flesh.
And
yeah.
you know what it is? The sandalwood is actually it's a very similar color. It's burnt sienna,
Mm.
basically is what it is, or it's a lighter. It's got a little bit, more white or whatever in it. And Reaper's they've got a burnt sienna kind of color. I don't know what it's called, but.
Ed, what color is it?
Burnt sienna.
Okay.
No, there's some kind of a triad, I'm sure. That's like it's a offshoot of burnt sienna, and actually I'm going to take credit for hounding Anne to death
for
making ultramarine blue.
Oh,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because they're all of the other blues. When I was coming out to Paint Club for quite a while, actually before I started being a professional miniature sculptor.
A miniature mogul.
I would come out to Paint Club and hang out and paint and whatnot. And I noticed that out of the selection, because I came out of painting with artist colors, and so and speaking of matte medium, I'll go back to the ultramarine blue here in just a second. But what happened to the brush on sealer?
Brush on sealer,
right here.
Right here.
Right here. Yeah. Okay, great. Brush on sealer is going to be a very good equivalent to Liquitex's matte medium, because basically what you can do is you can take, and I just put it out. Well, I don't know about showing you, but let's see. I'll take.
Well, I just did it right here with her. I was just going because you'd mentioned it before we started.
Oh, is that what you were doing? And using it as a wash?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just added a little water to it, and so it's the brush on sealer, which I guess you explained how it's going to work.
So basically I just take and put a little puddle out, or if you've got like the little wells, like the flower type.
That we had until Michael took them away.
Yes,
oh, okay.
Yes, we had those.
All right.
You guys all graduated?
We graduated out.
Graduated. So I just take like a brush full of this stuff with a little bit of water in it, and just add the pigment to it until it gets to the opacity, that I'm looking for, and then I'll take and just wash that onto the area as kind of a glaze, and it kind of defines the.
Does it smooth out your?
It kind of does in a way, because what it does is, I don't know if you've noticed that like when you're painting and you add just water to something and you thin it out too much, when the paint dries, it kind of breaks
away.
up. It's got kind of a chalky sort of a look to it when you do a wash like that. And what this is it's a binder that's kind of like basically a pigmentless paint in a way. And so you can control the translucency of your paint and kind of do glazes like the Dutch masters and stuff did, by layering up, glazes on glazes with that. And
to give it depth and
yeah, exactly. So
no, I just tried based on what we talked about earlier on the blue girl there, and it seems to be holding. Which is good. Normally, if you put that using the water-based paint, you put your dark wash on there, and it looks really good when it's wet. And as soon as it dries, it just sort of looks like I said, chalky. And
yeah, exactly.
And so adding that brush sealer, which would fix it, it would dry a lot faster and it has a lot more substance to it. So we'll see how it goes. I'm gonna try it again on this one.
It keeps the paint from breaking up on that. So, and I'll put her.
Just pick a spot.
Where she goes.
I don't remember. He didn't number the table for us.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
So she'll come around a couple of times, and you can kind of see.
It's not a horrible paint job.
Oh, it's awesome. It's
yeah. It's terrific. So
it's a squid dude. You can't go wrong with a squid dude.
That's true.
No,
they've got to be just fun to do.
Squid dudes are cool.
It's like the coral guy we did. Yeah.
So this October, this month, this is Bombshell's 6th anniversary.
6th anniversary. Yeah.
You guys got anything special going on for your 6th anniversary?
We do. If you buy 6 babes on our web store this month, you only have to pay for 4. So for every 6 babes
that's
you get,
30%. Yeah.
Yeah. So for every 6 babes you get, we're only going to charge you for 4 of them. And
that's just bombshellminis.com.
At bombshellminis.com.
Minis, not miniatures.
Minis, M-I-N-I-S.
Bombshellminis.com.
Yeah. Do you guys, producers, do you have a way to link to that?
Yeah, we can put it at the bottom of the screen.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome.
Get that in there for the edit.
Cool. All right.
Well, this has been a busy year. We were just talking earlier. This is also in August. You did your 2nd edition for Counterblast.
Right. Yeah, and we've been working on that for like 2 years now, because we started. Well, we did the first Kickstarter in 2014 for the first edition, and then kind of went through that, and then it got to the place to where we were getting enough feedback and stuff on it that we were thinking, well, let's start to put out supplements and things and kind of consolidate some of the rules that were coming out online and all this. And then it just got to the point where it's like, no, we just need to just revise.
Which is good. I mean, very few miniatures rule sets ever make a second edition.
Sure.
So that's quite an achievement.
And where did that second edition get released at?
Oh, it premiered at ReaperCon this year.
There we
Thank
go.
you very much.
It sure
That's
did.
what I thought.
And we were really excited to be able to do that. We brought the hardback books for sale there. We brought the all the new batch miniatures and the lunchbox edition. Yeah,
I love the lunchbox. That is the coolest.
It's really cool.
Delivery system packaging there is. Get the tape measure, everything in there ready to go, and it's just cool.
It's like
and you have as a figure case, die cut foam,
right?
So it's your ultimate figure carrier, perfect for D&D night. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Well, and we contacted Battle Foam and had them custom cut those foam inserts for the lunchbox edition. So it's covered also by Battle Foam's regular warranty on it, where if it gets torn up or anything like that, you just ship it back to them. They'll send you another one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that is not the color I wanted.
What are you looking for?
It's pretty mustard looking.
It's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for an actual
for mustard.
dragon gold.
Okay. Oh, were you working on the
Well, there's tiny
the little headpiece.
The headpiece.
Head armor thing. I hope that's armor.
It is.
Okay, good.
It's armor.
I interpreted
did you do all of the design work and everything for Counterblast? Is that how did that what was the genesis and how that
Well,
come
yeah,
about?
on the first edition of it, Brett Amundsen wrote basically all the rules on it, and so we had input. Vicky and I had input on it as far as like, well, this is the setting. This is kind of what we want to simulate. This is the type of game that we want to make, and it's a small skirmish style game, and it's kind of retro. It's
definitely is that retro. 50s.
We touted it as let's see, what is it? Necromunda meets Buck Rogers kind of a thing. Is really what we were kind of going for with it. And so basically, you've got like a little crew, and they, each player that's playing a crew, they pick their own mission. So you're not really, like a lot of skirmish games or war games for that matter. You play the same scenario. It's like, well, it's capture the flag, or it's this or that.
Right. There's a sort of
Yeah, and so what we wanted to do was something that was a little bit more narrative. And it kind of gives each player the option the opportunity to choose, what their crew is actually going to do. So you can have like I think we do have like a capture the flag type of mission. There's
but it plays out in the battle profiles that I was reading those. And those are actually a lot of fun to follow through there. So the two missions were converging on the same place.
Exactly, and so that way.
But the objectives seem different.
Right.
Yeah.
The objectives are very different. Each player has their own objectives. So, and that kind of takes away from the I just need to kill my opponent.
Right.
Type of thing.
Yes.
What you're really trying to achieve is your mission objective. That's the goal. And so it just so happens that it's like, well, your opponent may get in the way of that. They may try to thwart what you're doing, or they may just be trying to achieve their own objectives, and so
it was a lot of fun when I was reading through your battle reports. There was a lot of really nice stuff. It was fun. You get involved in it, and you also start feeling sorry for there was one team you were playing that you got whopped, but it's like everybody there. Well, I'm going to go check the uploader, and just by touching it, I got blown into smithereens.
Exactly.
You guys need a better contract. Yeah.
Right.
I really like how that worked. I mean, when I did the brush on sealer with her and the blue for just a quick wash.
Oh yeah,
glaze,
that looks great.
Especially for a speed to start pushing it through real fast and it looked nice.
Well,
very nice.
That's the key to it. Particularly, I come out of painting armies.
Right.
And it's like, well, you got like 40 or 50 of the same thing to paint, and you want them to look nice and put them on the table, and I prefer playing games where the miniatures are painted.
Yes.
And so that's why when people come to me for painting advice, it's like, well, okay, look, if you're going to play with these things, if they're going to be
what is it
game
you're painting
pieces.
for?
What's
right,
your exactly? What's your goal in this? It's like, well, is it going to go to the crystal brush, or is it
right? Or is it just going to hit Fred's
Yeah.
table in his garage?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what we were talking about that earlier. Of that, when you just approach it, you have to more or less decide, because that's going to be the technique you use to get to the end result. And a good tabletop figure might not necessarily look good up close,
right?
But boy, the army just really
Right.
looks
As
awesome.
a whole,
As a
it gives
whole,
you this
yeah.
this impression, and that was one thing we were talking about Vicky's Tyranids before, and she decided on a color scheme for her Tyranids that were very, I guess, aliens kind of, from the movies.
Okay.
And so,
Never heard of it.
okay, yeah, particularly the Hormagaunts. Okay, so she wanted sort of this, it's kind of an overall black paint scheme with, it was kind of a purple, what was that, nightshade purple or some kind of, whatever Games Workshop had at the time, as sort of an accent color for like all the fleshy bits. But all the carapace and all that type of stuff was black with a little bit of highlight on it. So so we basically primered them all black, like, kind of what we do here. And then she would go in and paint all of the little accent bits, maybe hit a little bit of dry brush and everything. But then when you based all of them with like an earth colored base, the black popped off
out.
of it.
Yes, the contrast.
The contrast on it was there, and she's got 4,000 points of Tyranids. Okay, so like putting a whole full force on that side, the intimidation factor would come into play, because when you're facing down 30 Hormagaunts, you can't shoot all of them.
Right.
They're going to get through, and they did, and so she called my Space Marines spam in a can most of the time.
Well, they would be a lot of times.
Because she'd just chew them up. But I remember several tournaments that we went to where she would put her army on the table, and the look on the opponents was just like,
Psychological game
the
over.
psychological, it's I don't want to play that, So,
Where's Vicky today?
Vicky is actually at home today, watching over the cats and doing web orders and all that type of stuff. Hi, Vicky. Yeah,
Sorry, couldn't be here.
She's sorry she wouldn't be able to make it out today.
She'd be out painting all of us at this moment.
Oh yeah. But she'd be done, whipping them out.
So I want to tell you, she was a big fan of AVP. Does she do computer games?
Her big thing is Skyrim.
Oh,
That's what she's really into. See, because we moved out to the country now last year, the only internet connectivity we have is satellite.
Yeah.
And you can't run like World of Warcraft on satellite, and so we kind of had to give up all of our online gaming, and so now she's just and we still have a PS3, so she's been playing through. She got like 40 different characters on Skyrim that she's like playing through, and I don't have time to really play computer games anymore, so I don't. Once we left World of Warcraft, I haven't been able to do any gaming, at all.
It's funny how it'll run in cycles. I haven't done it in years.
Yeah.
Ron had. I don't know. Have you done it?
I don't know what that is.
No.
Right. Well, now you're a big Diablo guy.
I played the hell out of Diablo.
He would get on Lord of the Rings to go out, just like I do. I get out, and when they come out with an expansion anymore, you're just out going and seeing. I'm not so much worried about anymore actually fighting or just going. Oh, that's cool. I remember that.
Just exploring and stuff. Looking at stuff.
Just look at stuff. Yeah.
Ron, you're not big on Fortnite?
No.
That's popular.
My kids are huge.
Yeah.
My youngest son he's eaten up with Fortnite. He dances all the dances, plays the game.
What is Fortnite? I've heard Fortnite. What is that? But I'm out of the loop.
It's a game.
It's PvP. It's
For those who don't know.
Thank you, sir.
Battle Royale shooter.
shoot 'em up.
Very cartoony.
Okay.
It's really cool. It's really cool.
Okay.
Yeah. Now it's the one that Blizzard runs. That one.
Mm-mm.
No,
That's
the one that
Overwatch.
Overwatch. That's the one
yeah.
that's.
So is it a thing like Overwatch? Is it kind of like that?
But you parachute in.
It's PvP, a little battleground.
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh, I'm sure
Usually
people who
100 people and you're all against each other.
Yeah,
Okay.
the people
and it's
who
almost got an element to it of almost Minecraft in a way. You're out in the wild. You're trying to put together everything you need, and it's the last man standing.
Okay. Oh, okay.
You know.
All right.
the people who play Fortnite are just ready to strangle us right now because we're not describing the game properly.
Oh yeah, well,
Yeah,
that goes
but
up.
You're
Like
so
that.
wrong. All of everything you said is wrong.
It's all wrong. I'll tell you this: the best thing about the game is the dancing. The dancing is awesome.
There's dancing in the.
Well, you know, like all these games have dancing.
The victory dance or the just
okay.
You know what?
Yeah,
if I had room, I would, but I don't have room back here.
Okay.
But
yeah, I see what you're talking about. Okay.
yeah. Oh, it's the one. Oh, my kid's gonna kill me because I don't know the name of the dance, but whatever.
Is it the floss?
It's not the floss. Although my kid can floss, I can't floss. I can't seem to get the.
Is flossing a lot like twerking? Just
it's well.
Yeah.
That wasn't funny. What are you clapping about?
We need like a live studio audience. We need like a laugh track. Or something.
Again, by the way, we know what this is called. Again, we talked about this. This is called Reaper Live.
Reaper Live.
Yeah, I mean it is filmed before a live studio audience.
Live studio audience, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, yeah. And this we will be doing we will be doing live episodes.
Oh yeah, since right now we get all our schedules worked out, that'll be definitely we will be doing live episodes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll watch that.
Thanks, Pat.
Hey,
have you seen the first episode yet?
Yeah.
I know you're.
I have not.
We're not paid professionals.
Right. No, I would have watched the first episode if I'd have known that it was on. And for some reason, I'm missing updates. You know, because it's like I tend to get prompted by Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so whenever something comes up from the Reaper page or whatever, I'll go and check it out. But I didn't know that the first episode was already posted out there and was viewable yet. So no, I will definitely see that.
Okay. All right.
So and that would have
make sure you watch the second one because you're going to be in it.
I will definitely, and I will share it accordingly.
Okay. Awesome. So anything else cool and exciting coming up from Bombshell? Or Counterblast in the next year? Anything you want to talk about? Anything you want to share with us?
Well, we moved out to our new facility right?
Mm-hmm.
So
I've been following the pictures. That's really good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You've got casting going up.
No, we're still building. So like last week, we were putting up more sheetrock and all that kind of stuff, and we're trying to get molding and casting done so that I can set up. You know, for
are you going to do your own molds?
Yeah,
everything good.
Well, but it's all going to be resin though, so we're not doing like spin casting there.
Oh, okay.
Any of the metal stuff that we're going to continue with, we'll have our vendor supply us, with that stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm really wanting to move all of our stuff into.
I'm just looking.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead. Don't let me interrupt you.
I really want to move all of our stuff into resin, at some point to where it's like we're doing it all in house. And so, so I'll be going back through these babes because I have all the masters, and I'll be making production molds and stuff for like our first releases and converting all of the stuff into resin like a little piece at a time, and we'll be doing releases on those.
Do you have a final date? How long does something like that take? We never did we've got a resin shop here, but we don't do production.
What to convert all the stuff?
To convert it all, to get it all set up.
Well, it's really not more than like doing a new release because say if I was going to put out or if I was going to redo 6 babes.
All right.
Okay. Well, you can make a set of molds. It only takes an hour for the mold to gel.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, it would be just pulling out the masters, whatever the setup time would take. So you
lengthwise, like for you to do all your pieces and get them converted into the.
If we were going to do 6 of them per month, then I don't know. I think we've got like 60. So it'd probably take us about a year to get a year or more to get all the stuff converted over, and then all of our new releases would be resin in some way. But now that I'm kind of sculpting in ZBrush and doing digital stuff, we kind of want to look at upping our 3D printing game a little bit. So particularly with Counterblast releases and all that. Plus,
did you find acclimated or transitioning to the digital? Did you enjoy that? Was that a good experience or?
Well, it took longer than I wanted it to. I mean, right now I'm actually doing client sculpts. I'm doing some stuff for Victoria.
Oh, that's
and Victoria Miniatures and.
Never heard of her.
Oh.
He's got all of the good cheap comments, doesn't he?
He does.
I'm just sitting here listening.
Just jumping right in. Let's see, and then there's another client that I'm doing some stuff for. It's going to be some cyberpunk miniatures that's based on an upcoming Osprey release. But I don't know what all the details I can give out on that. But I've been doing a few pieces for them.
They just fired you.
I did. I probably just
tweeted it out.
Ruined it. Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to think if there's what else I'm sculpting on.
Well, when you moved over to digital, you said it took you longer.
Yeah, it kind of did.
Was it the learning curve of the software like ZBrush, or
no,
was it just making the time to sit down and even do it?
That's what it is. It's the time. It's the I have a certain amount of client work that I have to do in order to pay the bills
right,
and cover all the expenses and that sort of thing. And so, whenever I started sculpting digitally back, it was 2011, 2012.
Okay.
Actually, 2012 and 13 was when I first got the software.
Okay.
And I was bringing pieces up here for you guys. It's like, hey, look, I've had a thing printed, and I was showing you guys. And I was just kind of noodling around in it. But the thing about it was I never could advance fast enough in it in order to just adapt all my client work over to that. So I was still having to sculpt traditionally in order to pay the bills and all that
analog as well as digital.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it just took longer for me to, because I didn't have the luxury of just sitting back and just screwing around.
Well, that sort of brings up one of the question we had. One of the questions was concerning your digital and what you're doing.
Yeah, what was that?
Yeah.
What was that?
Our producer, our technical director, Justin Elliott, with a question.
He was right on the cue. Did you notice that? He just looked up like, what?
Huh?
Well, I have to wait for you guys to finish talking.
No.
I'm going to talk over
No,
you.
Hey, that doesn't
ahead.
stop Ron.
Okay.
Don't worry
You
about
know
it.
what? Fine. I'll just go ahead and launch quick. In fact, I believe this question we're talking about, isn't this the question of the day?
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah,
Question of the day.
All right.
Need to
Who
get
is this
something
from?
Turn around like Jeopardy.
This question of the day is from Stephen Martin. Okay.
What's so important about the question of the day, Justin?
Well, that explain it, Ron. There is your chance.
So, golly, now we got to back into this thing. Okay, look.
He's serious now. He's taking his glasses off.
Yeah.
So every week we're going to have a question of the day. Maybe we may have questions of the day sometime.
Yeah.
You know, but the question of the day, whoever, if we read your question on the air during the recording, you will win a prize. And today we have a question. The question of the day comes from
Stephen Martin.
I
assume no relation to the
Hi, Stephen.
80s comedian.
I just saw Steve Martin last weekend. Live.
Really?
Yeah, I did. I'll tell you about that in a second. Stephen Martin has a question. You're going to win a prize. The prize is going to be donated by Bombshell Miniatures.
Bombshell Miniatures is happy to provide today's question of the week prize, which is going to be the 75 millimeter Melee resin kit.
Oh, cool.
Awesome.
No, that's
fantastic. Stephen Martin, you just won a 75 millimeter Melee.
I'll send a question in now.
Yeah. So cool. All right. So what is the question? This kind of leads right into
So
that.
the question is,
All right. I keep saying question of the day. It's question of the week. I'm sorry.
Oh, question of the week. Did I say that?
No, you said question of the week. I said question of the day.
All right.
and
Question of the week.
as a sculptor of miniatures, what is the best way to get into the industry in general, and Reaper in particular as a sculptor? And also, as an addition to that, so you can answer both, in the digital age, is there still a place or need for traditional sculptors in the miniature industry?
Let's go
So
with
it's a two-part
first part
Yeah,
first.
it's
Yeah.
two-parter.
Actually, it's a three-part question. The first part is how do I get into the sculpting in the industry? Right. That's
Yeah.
okay. I would say to put together a portfolio. You're going to need to do the work at the level that you're expected. You know, so if you look at other sculpts out there, if you look at other pieces that are being produced, then you need to find the level that you're wanting to get to and produce pieces at that level. So if you're wanting to do, say for example, goblins. So look at a variety of different kinds of goblins, and then look at who's putting those goblin miniatures out, and see if you can sculpt like those goblins, you know, or
better, or whatever.
Or better,
yeah.
or whatever, or you know, at least, you know, close to that, even though they're your own. Maybe they're your own designs or something like that. So really, what you need to do is exhibit the skills that are marketable. You know, and there's actually several different ways that you can do that. So it's like, well, I don't know if is it primarily digital sculpting. There's a website out there that's called ArtStation, okay, and it's kind of an online gallery, and they have a feature where you can list yourself as a pro, and so it comes up when art directors are looking for artists of particular skill
set,
style,
subject
whatever.
matter, yeah,
Exactly, and So you can post your stuff on there. It's free to set up a portfolio online. So basically, you would sculpt if you're sculpting in ZBrush or Mudbox or some other kind of digital package. Then you can upload your screenshots or renders or whatever to that, and you just basically launch it out there and hope that somebody sees your stuff. But marketing your stuff is also a key, where you need to have social media interaction. You need to have a Facebook page now. You need to have Instagram in order to reach and build an audience. And you may be thinking, it's like, well, as a sculptor, what kind of an audience do I need? Am I trying to attract clients in order to do work, as a freelancer, or am I trying to attract people that are going to buy my miniatures? Like we do Bombshell Miniatures, so we sell, minis. And it's a little bit of both, because I think that art directors are just like pretty much anybody else, and you I don't know if you can I don't know if you agree with this or not, but
I'm hoping he doesn't.
No, but I say that
Sure.
as
No.
you get out on the internet and look for stuff.
Absolutely.
Oh
yeah. Yeah. ArtStation's a great place to
Right.
go and look. I go on ArtStation all the time. I go on Pinterest all the time, because that'll eventually.
But also
lead
to
me
the
back to
portfolio,
ArtStation.
I get emailed a lot of, and I'm not. It's not even my job, but I'll be the one they tag in the emails, and I'll go through it. And if I find those gems or the qualities, sometimes you're not actually looking for the whole piece. I would say, oh well, we've already got a bunch of goblins, so good, you've sent me a bunch of goblins, and they happen to look like so and so's. But what I would look for, and what Ron and I have discussed, and he's got his own criteria, are the technical levels of various aspects. How are your hands? How are your height? How are your proportions? How'd you do your hair? Hair's really, and fur is a hard thing to pull off.
Particularly digitally.
Digitally. And so those would be the things I'd look for. And if I find that, I don't care I'm looking at a goblin, but then I would at least take the time to initiate a conversation with Ron and say, hey, I've looked at this, you might want to take a look. Because ultimately it's his call. But so when you're putting that portfolio out there, or anything, just get it out there. That's probably, like I said, that'd be the good thing. And those are the kind of things that we would look for. That's what I would look for and pass on. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work. It just depends on the workload at the time. Reaper in particular is just going to be a lot of factors. How far out we are on our schedule. A lot of sculptors become niche sculptors. Years ago, if we needed an animal, we went to Richard Kerr. Bar none, best animals on the planet. And kind of a thing. So you would find, so you can also specialize in an area if you really want to do that. Your robotics looking kind of stuff or whatever. So
yeah, and I've become popular for sculpting female miniatures.
Yes, and that was really one of the first things I brought to you when I saw some of Patrick's first stuff. It was his hands. I would have to say that Julie Guthrie's hands and Sandra Garrity would have probably the best female hands, just hands down, no problem. And of course, when I did, I saw some, and I was like, that's what I went and showed Ron. Well, Ron, don't look at this. Look at the wrinkles here. Do you remember that was wearing the corset and then the hand? And that's what I was in there saying. Look at all this. You can fill in whatever you want,
So it was the details, I think, that kind of captures you on that.
Yes,
like
very much so.
Okay.
So, well, Ron, you're the art director. What do you look for?
No, it doesn't matter anymore. You'll have answered all the questions. So.
We stole your thunder. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, thank God. What we need is some martyr points that we can start throwing around.
Yeah, right.
Just don't mind me. I'm just sitting back here minding the show.
You should be painting.
I know. Yeah. I wish I could see better. Well, thanks, Stephen. Right. Stephen Martin. Thanks for your question. Really appreciate it. You win the question of the week. I'm sorry. You'll get your 75mm Melee. Probably tomorrow. You're going to overnight it?
Yeah, right.
Okay, so it'll be in the mail. Justin will be in contact with you to get your address, and we can ship that stuff to you. So,
but don't walk away from it yet. If I was a sculptor and I wanted to get your attention, where would I go?
Well, actually, there's a 3-part question. That's
true. Yeah.
This is part A or part B of the first part of the question is how to get Reaper's attention.
Right.
As far
That's
as
part B.
Right. Yeah.
And so what was the third part?
The third part was the are you at a disadvantage if you're doing sculpting and not analog?
Yeah,
right. Digital and not analog.
Digital versus traditional.
Yeah, digital versus
I got some thoughts on that.
Yes, we talked about this earlier. I don't think that it is a disadvantage. We still use sculptors who sculpt with green putty.
Past it. Let's go back to B. How would I get your attention if I was a sculptor?
what
it
everybody
needs
else
to probably
does.
look better than everybody else.
You submit something in, and we'll take a look at it.
Okay.
I take a look at it.
Do you want 2D art?
I look at everything. I get submissions all the time, and just because we don't accept people's submissions doesn't mean it's not good. It just means we just don't have the time or the place, or it's just not at that moment. It's not right to do something with that person.
Well, and the experience. Excuse me. The experience that I had whenever I was submitting, for my sculpts and everything.
Don't look at that.
I sculpted about, I want to say, 5 or 6 pieces, and I brought those, and they were all in green stuff, which I hate sculpting with. But I brought those to the Reaper Artist Con, and I showed you guys. It was like, okay, well, here's where I am right now, and you didn't buy any of them, okay? But I got very valuable feedback on them, where it was like, okay, well, when you do this, do it this way, and I remember one of the things that you told me was like, okay, when you sculpt hair, be sure and pull it all the way down, because
don't leave the little loops.
Don't leave little undercuts
Yeah.
and all that stuff. And I didn't think about that because I wasn't thinking about production at the time. But it's like, we don't want the mold rubber to get in there and tear that stuff out. So that was useful to me. So I took that advice and I went back and I sculpted more stuff. And it's like, well, you can't just give up. You can't just go to the point of like, well, I've just done this one thing and they didn't want it and I'm going to quit.
Move
now.
on.
You just
with digital sculpting, this is something that happens a lot. That when you see something sculpted so large on your screen, it looks good, and you think that looks cool, and those details, those buttons, all those little rivets, those pop out. That's great. But until you shrink it down to an inch tall,
right,
35 millimeters tall, whatever it is,
all that gets lost.
It disappears. So I find myself constantly talking to new sculptors. Make those details bigger. Make those details bigger. They're just going to disappear. And we also have to think about this. We think about if it's going to be turned into metal or if it's going to be turned into plastic. And almost always, if it's going to turn into plastic, it's probably going to be turned into metal as well. Sometimes, not all the time, but then sometimes some of these subtle details that you can keep in metal won't necessarily translate into plastic. So I always have to keep that in mind when I'm looking at a digital render or a turnaround, going, okay, how is this going to look in metal? How is this going to look in plastic? And and it's even hard for me to determine when you see it on my screen. I mean, I don't know. It's just
I'd also take your work to make digital prints of it, and then also I would hit all the big shows, Gen Con, Origins. That's how Bobby Jackson was discovered. Is he sort of came in and goes, "This is my second figure. What do you think of it?" And we're like, "Well, let's go." Kind of a thing. So that would be a good venue.
Yeah. So, and being able to print things digitally is a big thing these days. Be able to do something and print it out and see in your hand how it looks versus on the screen. And then take that around.
Well, it's very useful to do test prints and so forth, and I think that the technology of sculpting digitally for miniatures is still so new that there's still a lot of bugs to be worked out. What with the limitation of the technology and that sort of thing, and by that limitation, I'm saying the printing resolutions and some of that. Okay, because it's like what you're talking about. You have to sculpt the details in a way that they'll print at that size. So
show up and be relevant.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. And that I just went through that. Actually, it's one of the pieces I was sculpting for one of my clients. I sent them the file, and then they did a test print and sent me photographs back and said, okay, well, these are the things that I want you to revise on it. And so I'm gonna have to go back to the piece and scale up some stuff and make those adjustments. Just because you can't really tell until you actually print the thing and look at it. So
and for us, I know that when we were doing CAV, all the CAVs were done through. Eventually all of them. The first 16 were analog, but the rest of them were all digital in the real early days. And that was the thing. We had a concept, or just what fought constantly is they're looking at the big robot this big on their screen, and they're putting in all these finite, just tons of details. And of course, when I shrink it down and make it an inch tall, it just turns into mud. It looks like chatter, bad mold and stuff. And then also too, being able to proportionally get them. We would get because all of back then we had to have the masters turned into silver of all things.
Oh yeah.
And they would show up. the model was supposed to be this big, and it would show up 2 and 3 times that size, or 2 or 3 times smaller. It was a very, very hard thing to be where we were all used to the greens. We just look at it was WYSIWYG. Well, that works or it doesn't.
Right.
Yeah, but and as far as people being, artists sculpting in green stuff versus digitally these days, there's still a market for both.
The only thing I think for my thoughts is the reality of anytime you don't have something in your tool chest, if that's your profession, you are going to be at a disadvantage. However, in our industry, there are still plenty of places that do both at the same time, or still do analog only, or just did that kind of a sculpting. What are your thoughts? You said you had particular thoughts on it.
Well, yeah, and this just comes out of my own experience. It's like one of the most recent pieces that I did was Lilith for the current Kickstarter that's running right now for Tim Prowl. That's Die Hard Miniatures. And so he contacted me before he actually launched it and sent me a fantastic piece of art by Chris Walton. This is the design for this character. And he said, but I want you to sculpt this traditionally because I'm going to have it cast in metal, and the production process that I have in place, I specifically want it. I don't want it in ZBrush, kind of a thing. So I said, okay, and did it like that, So there are specific, companies or manufacturers or boutiques or whatever you want to call them that are out there that it's like, well, our production is set up like this, and this is what I want you to sculpt in. And Reaper was the same way back in the early days, because I brought stuff in Milliput, and you guys were like, no, we're not going to do that.
Or
why did you sculpt or Sculpey? Why did you sculpt it in this? It's like, well, that's what I had.
Right.
And it's like, no, you want to use this, and so then you try to use the stuff, for the.
And it works sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. And it was, and you fight through that, But now there is so much available in the way of there are silicone molds now for doing mastering and all this. I mean, I've sent Sculpey, Fimo, or Beast Putty to our vendor, and they've pressed it, and I get it back, and you can't even tell it's been molded. So it's advanced to where now you can really pretty much sculpt in anything that you want, and they will figure out a way to make it
if they need it.
If they need it.
Let's hear some more questions.
All right, Rick Anderson brings us our next question.
Hi, Rick.
Would you be willing to make large-sized character models in bones, i.e. duplicates, or the medium-sized at the large size, i.e. Funari?
So right now we have in our metal range, we have the gaming scale version of Funari, 14093, I believe is their number. Doesn't matter.
Oh my God.
Well, and then we also have a 72 millimeter,
75, whatever in that area.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, version of her. Is it 54?
No, it's larger. It's going to be a 72, 75.
I mean, we'd consider it. I mean,
I don't see why not. That's where the material really shines, is on the larger stuff. You could never do Malvacar that we just did in resin, or I guess you do it in resin and fund a small country, but but to do, that's where this material really works the best. So yeah, I would think so.
I mean, it's sure, we wouldn't shut the door on it. I mean, you also have to consider when you do things like that, you got to consider marketability, sellability. Will that sell at that scale? It's all kinds of things you have to consider if you're gonna invest the money in the tooling and things like that.
Yeah, like we were talking, we'd have to do maybe more than one when we did it, just to be able to get it out there. Doing one of something doesn't necessarily educate the world that that's something that you do or make it profitable. Those pieces were all done really more just to experiment, to do it and have something different to paint for the painters, not necessarily as a product line or anything like that.
Yeah, but more of a and the metals are more of a painter's type of piece. So cool. All right.
Yeah, no, that would work.
What else you got over there?
All right, our next question comes from Sarah Pullman. Sarah wants to know, she says that she understands there are issues with packaging some of the Bones 3 miniatures. Do you anticipate releasing the last of the larger Bones 3 pieces, i.e. Froghemoth, Mystical Circle?
Yeah, just okay. Instead of fumbling over there.
Prior to the Bones 4 fulfillment.
Well, Sarah, thanks for asking. As a matter of fact, we are getting ready to release some of those specific models right now.
Very soon.
Yeah. So, for example, here we've got Shub-Niggurath. Can you see that?
What is it?
Yeah.
It's Figure to show.
Shub-Niggurath.
Oh wow, that's creepy.
So that's the packaging
Yeah.
for Shub-Niggurath. Okay.
Is that going to be in a box?
I'm getting there.
Okay. Got 'em.
These will be in big clamshells.
Just
big
big
clamshell.
big clamshells. Not literal, shells of clams, but big plastic clear clamshells.
Well, that would be appropriate for a
That's
Cthulhu.
yeah.
thing,
It's
to open up.
and I think Shub-Niggurath will be out probably in
tentacles coming out.
mid-November. And then we also have the Mystic Circle sculpted by Kevin Williams. By the way, Kevin Williams also sculpted the Shub-Niggurath. Shub-Niggurath.
Shub what?
You heard me. And so this is the Mystic Circle, also sculpted by Kevin Williams. Okay. And these two pieces, so Shub-Niggurath and the Mystic Circle, the Cthulhu Monster Shub-Niggurath will be out in November, hopefully by Black Friday. This is the packaging for Gormaw, the giant worm, big death worm from hell. Sculpted by Bobby Jackson. This one was painted by Shannon Stilts. This one, Gormaw, will be out in December, hopefully by Christmas. And we also have the I don't have the packaging yet, but Viridius will be out in December as well. And
Is
the
that
last
something green?
piece,
Viridius? Is that green?
It's the big green dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't, where'd you get that from?
From the name, actually.
Oh, well. What a coincidence.
Hmm.
That's Green Dragon, named Viridius. So yes, Sarah, thanks for asking. Those pieces will be coming out shortly. Okay, what else we got?
All right, next one comes from David McCourt. He actually wants to know, and this is what I'm curious of myself. How did Sophie become the mascot for Reaper?
Oh wait, I'm gonna set this one up for Ron. Ron has to answer this one. Okay, I have no clue who the president was, nor do I care.
Okay.
I have no idea how the economy was, and I'm gonna bet the national enemy was foods that were high fat.
Okay.
Okay, so with that setting, there you go.
We don't know how she became the mascot. Okay, you might hear various stories of this, but this is the real story of how Sophie became our mascot, okay? No matter what you hear from any other people, right, Ed? This is how Sophie became the mascot. This is the real
It's
story.
your story, man. Go.
Now, so we're gonna let you see behind the curtain here, at the risk of being underwhelmed. Okay, so years ago, we wanted to have a mascot on the back page of our casket works. It was going to be called Sophie Spotlight, and we thought, well, let's have a succubus, and we'll have her. Actually, let me back up even further. We didn't know her name was Sophie. We wanted to have a character who would spotlight particular products on the back page of the catalog, and so we were sitting around thinking like, well, what could we do? And we thought, well, let's do a succubus. Okay, succubus would be good. And so, what are we going to call her? And so we're just sort of kicking things back and forth. And Mike Athey, who used to be a layout guy here at Reaper, he said, well, what about the name Sophie? It's like, oh, Sophie the succubus. That sounds great. Let's go with Sophie the succubus. I said, where'd you get that name? He said, that was my aunt up in Chicago, I believe, was so his older aunt. So it looks nothing like Sophie, but the name was cute, and so. All right, so there's the name. So we know we have Sophie the succubus as our mascot. Now, what does she look like? So, again, at the time, there was an artist by the name of Jim Neal who lived up in Virginia. He was a security guard, and at night he would draw stuff, and I would come into work the next day, and there'd be a stack of
faxes in. That's all he did. Whatever he was guarding, anybody could have come in and
I
just
think they got robbed, and he got put out of the job.
Yeah.
But he would fax us these. I said, hey, Jim, draw me this succubus named Sophie. I need her doing different things, pointing and things like that. And so Jim faxed in this stack of naked succubus art, and she would be pointing or laying on a rack or, in suggestive poses and things like that. And so we, on an early issue of Casket Works, you have to go back and look at it. There was I think, the Jim Neal version of Sophie the succubus.
But didn't that go on the back of the cards, didn't it? Originally, the one laying on her side?
Yeah. Did it?
Yeah, that's on
For
the
a
back
very,
of the blister
very,
cards.
very short period of time.
Well, there was a nude version and then a clothed version.
There was a nude version who was conveniently covered by hair and her legs
that's right.
crossed.
So yeah, nothing showed, but we still got flack
And
letters.
Jim Neal, dude, I love you, but man, that wasn't
PC.
But okay, yeah, we'll just go with that. And so Talon, our wonderful artist Talon saw that art and said, you know what, I can do better than this. I can sort of level up Sophie. And so Talon took that art, the Jim Neal art concept, and poof, made Sophie into what she is today. So it really, just really evolved Sophie just really, really quickly into our iconic mascot. So
speaking of leveling up, Ron, that actually goes into our next question. The next question comes from Andrew sorry, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation. Andrew Brehot? Brehot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or Breho. I don't know.
Could be, yeah.
Sorry, Andrew. The question is there a miniature in the course of painting, and this is for everyone here, in the course of painting it, you felt leveled up your skills, the design, and the detail of the mini itself?
The pumpkin guy right here. It just leveled me up right now as I was looking at it. Now, I know that
I could feel that vibe coming off.
Yeah, that's why I handed it to him. I thought I need to be inspired.
You know what? I believe you got something
for me.
this.
That was. It wasn't a figure. It was a figure line. And when I was learning to paint 25s or teaching myself, I hadn't had classes or anywhere to hang out. The problem I had was just, like I said, how do I get to that next level? So what I did is Heritage had a line called Panzer Troops. They were 15 millimeter World War II guys, and at Heritage they were in the dollar bin, so I could get just a handfuls of them in these blister packs. And I would paint those guys and just put just insane amounts of effort into and detail into them, way beyond what you would ever do in a gaming figure, just to get used to that. And then what happened is when I went back to 25s, I found that I was just less intimidated. It was easier to get into smaller areas, to do better stuff, sort of kick it up a level. And I don't know if that would work for anybody else, but that was sort of how I attacked it, to be able to get it and just get used to doing it this big. So all of a sudden when I'm painting it this big, man, it was great.
I've got a kind of I don't know if this is true, but I seem to recall at the time when Werner Klock was starting to do gaming scale figures, he had done a line of 15 millimeter Demon War. I thought he said that when he moved up to gaming scale, it just was like, man, look at this.
What I can do here.
Yeah,
I can put pupils and eyes.
Yeah, this is crazy easy now because I've gone up to...
Because and I remember those, it's very hard to photograph a miniature much larger or display it much larger than it really is. And taking a 1 inch tall figure and putting it on your monitor 12 inches tall just really tears it up. But his 15s, it was very easy when you were looking at those to go, these are 25s or whatever,
really
scale 30s, whatever, they were good.
If you can find those, Demon World 15 millimeter. God, man, I hope I'm not butchering.
And then again, this is going to be one of those, we remember them this way, and if you see them today, they look like chewed bubble
like,
gum.
what are y'all talking about? That looks like an old Heritage figure.
Yeah.
Pat, do you have anything?
The only thing that comes to mind is the Elf King. I don't know what he's called. The Werner sculpted. He's got like the eagle on one hand. Yeah.
2935.
Yeah. 20. I'm sure.
I don't.
I'm sure that's what it is.
It might be the number.
It could be the number.
Somebody check that.
Right. But it was that piece, and I was working on freehand at the time. I'm trying to level up my freehand skills, and so I wanted to paint Celtic knotwork on the cape on that because I thought, well, this would be ideal. There was enough
to do it,
space on it, and it would suit the character and all this sort of thing. So I painted like 2 or 3 other miniatures. Well, actually, I just took like an index card and started drawing different Celtic knotwork designs and painting actually on the index card in order to kind of work out the design, what I wanted to put on there. And when I kind of came up with something that looked like it would fit, then I sketched it out on the cape because there was a big Celtic knotwork thing on the back of the cape, and then I think he's got some kind of tabard or something on the front, and then I did some designs on that.
Did you put freehand on the feathers of the bird?
No, actually, I just kind of skipped right over that. Okay. No, actually, I did paint the eagle, but it did have rows of color on the feathers, but it wasn't like.
Now, another thing that I noticed where people shot up a good amount was our artist conference. They originally started as actually an artist conference, and we would bring when we brought the sculptors in, it was Werner and Julie and all of these sculptors were there. And the thing was they had all learned how to do chainmail, all sorts of stuff with the models, but they'd all been doing it in a vacuum. They all had their own way of doing it. And when they were all in the room, everybody could go see, oh, Werner, that's how you do this. Julie, this is how you do that. And it really afterwards shot a lot of people. So I would say just getting into a paint club and just just bouncing it off and watching and just asking questions. Because it is very hard to sit at home by yourself and push your level up because you really don't really know what the next level is.
Yeah, so there may not be a specific figure you're working on, but it may just be a matter of just sitting down
going out and doing it. Yeah.
That's what I've noticed is that this is a very isolationist type of a hobby.
Yeah.
Where you sit in a room alone and
sit in your mom's basement.
Right, and sculpt or draw or whatever, and going out and socializing and sharing tips and ideas. That's one of the reasons why the artist conference that you guys, had started doing back in the day was really useful for me, because I could work on stuff up to that point and then kind of bring stuff with me and get feedback on. It's like, well, I'm sculpting like this. How does that look?
And as a general rule, all of the artists we've ever dealt with are very open about showing their techniques.
Yeah, because
it's not very much I'm going to run to the corner and not show you how I'm doing. Everybody really loves to help.
Yeah.
What else you got, Justin?
Actually, that was it for our questions.
Really?
So if you guys want to go ahead and show us what you've done today.
Oh man, it's
Lord.
the Wild West out here now.
Wave goodbye to everybody.
Well,
Wish them a good week.
Is that really? It's already time?
Good weekend.
Time flies.
Patrick, we need you here more often. We're a lot faster with you here than you guys are on.
You're bored out of your mind.
Yeah.
All right, well, there's our babes today. Actually, everybody's done some really good work on all of this. Love the little pumpkin guy. Look at that.
Terrible. Oh my
Look
gosh.
at that.
You know what? I blame it on my eyeglasses, the brush, and the paint.
Get your
the sculpting's
magnifier.
Yeah, you could use your optimizer.
Well, I don't want to look silly.
Just look down and you won't know.
Never bothered you before, right?
Yeah.
Right. Why would that change now? I mean,
you're right. Why would it? So, well, thanks for watching today. We really appreciate the time. Make sure to follow us on our social media:
YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram.
Also, you can keep up with us.
Get there and have fun.
Also, you can keep up with us on www.reapermini.com. Also, make sure to check out Bombshell at bombshellminis.com.
Bombshellminis.com.
And their October sale for their anniversary sale. That's really
sale.
That's a cool there.
And we got a couple of shows next year. If you get out and about, we're going to go to Winterfest next year, so be sure and stop by.
Oh, that's a great show.
Yep,
that is a neat show.
And we're going to be premiering some of our new large-scale kits there.
That's the place to do it.
Yeah,
that's the place to do it.
Again, thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
Have fun. Have a good week.